this lecture, we will look at the various transit marketing strategies now that we have understood how to finance public transportation in our urban areas. So, in this lecture, we will be looking at and giving you an overview of why transit marketing is required, what are the different strategies in marketing, and how that can help improve transit ridership, transit revenues, and so on and so forth. So, when we talk about public transportation, often the aspect of marketing is neglected because we look at public transportation primarily from the point of view of either providing a service or looking at it from the point of view of efficiency, of how well the buses are running, whether they are running on time or not, from the point of view of their maintenance costs and so on and so forth. But marketing especially can boost all of this. Through marketing you can create a brand value, you can attract new riders, you can keep your existing riders, and there can be tremendous benefits if you indulge in the proper marketing strategies for transit in various urban areas. And this is a new thing that is picking up because not only does it generate extra revenues for the operating agency, but also helps in collecting fare, increasing the fare collection, fare box collection, and so on and so forth. However, marketing has to be very focused, targeted. Whom are we trying to attract? It can be different for different bus routes, right? Maybe one bus route is going through a certain type of area in the city. So, the marketing should be geared towards that kind of a area, whereas if it is going towards particular facilities like airports and so on and so forth, so it should be geared towards those kind of activities. So, we will give you an overview of how marketing is getting more and more used in urban public transportation systems, especially we look at the bus transport here and see how it is helping in different ways. So, when we are talking about marketing, we are also it should also be said that there should be clear objectives, right. Marketing is not just a way of advertising or putting your advertisement on a bus which is not relevant to the user or to the overall goals of the public transportation system. So, marketing should not be seen as only a source of raising revenues. It is one of the sources of raising revenues, yes, but it should also be coupled with the larger goal of increasing ridership or attracting newer riders, keeping the choice riders in the transport in the public transport domain, and so on and so forth. So, again when we are talking about marketing, we should not be looking at it only from the point of view of blanket advertisement on the buses. So, overall what is being observed is that there are four kind of goals for transit marketing. The first is to attract private vehicle users to public transportation, right. So, whoever is currently using their own four-wheelers or two-wheelers for travel, to attract them to public transportation, you can always use marketing. Now, there are different strategies of marketing which we will be getting into, but that is one of the primary goals of transit marketing. The second is to retain the existing public transport users, right. It is also essential to keep your existing users, right. So, they should not be moving away from the use of public transportation, but their experience should be enhanced. So, how do you market that enhanced experience of public transportation? The third is to create a brand that carries desired values with it, right. We will give you some examples where various agencies have created a brand, right. Everybody loves a brand to either buy a branded product or use branded services, right. So, marketing allows you to brand your public transportation as well, and then once you create a good brand, a brand that is that helps provide good efficient transportation, that will help you with the first two goals of attracting new people and keeping your old people, keeping your existing users. And finally, it does help in increasing the market penetration of not only the trips and via the trips, it is also increases your revenues. So, now you can go into different newer areas, right. You can expand your public transportation system, you can attract more trips, more passenger trips, and that will also increase your revenues. So, overall these are the goals that should be kept in mind while you are marketing for public transport, and not just have the aim of generating revenues through advertisements. So, if you look at this chart, you can almost recognize any of these brands, right. So, why can you recognize these brands? Now, they have not only created a brand value, but the services that they provide are being appreciated by all of their users, right. So, services that everybody loves, that whatever Facebook provides, or whatever Toyota provides in the automobile industry, or whatever Nike provides in the athletic goods industry, everybody loves them. So, the first thing is to increase or improve the services that you provide. By improving the services, you will create a brand value, right. So, once you have a brand value, then you can attract more and more people to it. So, it is kind of a chicken and egg thing, right. Should we create a logo and a brand value first, or should we improve our efficiency first, or improve our services first? You should always look at doing both hand in hand, because as you keep on improving your services, improving the services that you provide, your brand value keeps on increasing. But in order to capture the benefits that your increasing services, or the benefits of the services that you are providing, you have to have a brand, you have to create a brand, right. Any of these products, I mean Walt Disney to Amazon, now Amazon is getting very popular in India. So, all of these have created a brand. So, that is what even transit services or public transportation is looking for, right. Public transportation also provides a service. It is a service that takes you from point A to point B. So, why can't we market it in such a way that people will get attracted to it, or there will be more and more users of public transportation. We have often seen that wherever there is competition, there needs to be marketing, there needs to be people, just the information about the services that you provide has to be spread to more and more people. Same is the case where there is in the case of public transportation. Now, people have so many options to travel from point A to point B in any urban area. So, why should people use public transportation? So, unless you can market your product, which is the bus you are running, the metro you are running, or whatever other mode of public transportation, taxis you are running, now you have Ola, Uber. So, everybody needs to market themselves so as to attract the user, right. Otherwise, people would get attracted to another alternative mode of transport, which is maybe doing a better job of marketing itself. So, there always, whenever there is competition, you always have to put forward your case strongly, put forward all the benefits, all the services that you provide in such a manner that people get attracted to your service, right. Some of the high competition sectors in India are food and beverages, all the fast moving consumer goods, insurance. So, anywhere there is competition, you see there is heavy marketing that goes on. Now, public transportation has always remained away from marketing, because essentially they were being provided by the government, and government would and there were so many takers of public transportation, especially in India, right. When there are so many takers of public transportation, then you kind of get complacent that, well, you already have a large user base, you do not have to really market your product to attract more people. But now that public transportation is in decline in many of the urban cities, in many of the urban areas, where private transportation is on the increase, then we have to pay some attention towards how to strategically market your public transportation services. This becomes very, very important in the case of the current scenario of public transportation in India. If you look at the private vehicle industry, I mean they are doing a tremendous amount of marketing, right? How many ads do you see in either the print media or the electronic media or in television that markets a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, right? There is constant advertisement of these vehicles that are out there trying to attract people to buy them, and as soon as you buy them, you are bound to use them, right? So, there is so much advertising that is going on or marketing that is going on behind these private vehicles. So, all they are doing is they have already created a brand, right, or they are piggybacking on a worldwide brand. Then they are trying to attract users or trying to sell to them the services that they provide. However, when it comes to public transportation services, there is not so much that is being marketed. Everybody believes that people will automatically use public transportation, but that belief is sometimes not very true. You have to still put yourself out there. So, in this case, if you look at what are the what is it that we are selling. So, if you look at it from the purely from the point of view of marketing and say that what commodity are we selling, we can say that trips is something, is a commodity. If you consider trips as a commodity which various types of transportation systems compete for, right. Every transportation system is competing for your trip. The next trip that you take, which mode should you use? Will you use an auto rickshaw? Will you use a cycle rickshaw? Will you use a bus, metro? Will you use taxi, Ola, Uber? So, these are all the competing modes that are competing for your next trip. So, how do you make sure that public transportation gets that trip, right? That in itself is how you is the essence of marketing, is how you market yourself. Okay. Now, I mean this may be a very new concept for people say in transportation engineering who are more worried about more focused on engineering, transportation planners, urban planners looking at planning aspects. But if you have to really if you really integrate marketing into your planning and engineering, then you see that your product or your commodity would attract more and more users, and that will be eventually beneficial to the transportation system as a whole, and to the traffic system as a whole, to the urban planning as a whole, and that will actually benefit you. So, this is all about integrating marketing into your planning, policy and engineering strategies. So, what are the strategies broadly that is used in marketing, right? First is we have talked about marketing the system, right? Marketing the system. What are the facilities that the system provides you? Where does it connect to you? What is the frequency? What are the how comfortable can be your ride, so on and so forth. So, marketing the system. Then it is marketing for revenue. Of course, this will generate a lot of revenue. Now, you can sell prime spot, right. Your bus may be going through some of the prime locations in the area. Now, if you want to sell your product to all the people where the bus is going to, you can advertise on the bus, right. Now, everybody can look at. So, those are traditional benefits of marketing for revenue. Reaching all, this next strategy would be to reach all socioeconomic segments. Now, this is a very important strategy when it comes to public transportation, because public transportation is mass transportation. So, it is for all of the society. It is not only for a certain class, it is for all society, and especially when we are trying to attract choice users, we have to be looking at their socio-economic strata as well. We cannot just say that public transportation is for is for captive riders, but it is also for choice riders. So, how do you kind of attract them? And then of course, you have to have some outreach programs, right? Every time you have a celebrity take a ride on a metro, celebrity take a ride on a bus, that kind of markets the product, right? That kind of markets the bus, says that, hey, look, it is such a safe system, you can go here, take a ride on this, do your own work, not worry about driving by yourself, not worry about getting into an accident. So, all of this can be done through outreach programs, right. So, that is what are the 4 different strategies, broadly the 4 different strategies of marketing that can be applied to public transportation marketing. So, now these have been started by some of the public transportation organizations in India as well. The first thing in branding is to develop what is called a logo, right. You have to have a logo in order to market yourself. You cannot otherwise people will not be able to identify you or distinguish you from other brands or distinguish you from other types of public transportation or systems on the road. So, you would see that Namma Metro in Bangalore has developed a logo, the Janmarg in Ahmedabad has come up with a logo, and also the BRTS system. Janmarg is also the BRTS system, and this is Rainbow is the BRTS system that connects I believe Pune to Pimpri. So, that is the BRTS system. All of them have already developed a logo. So, when you immediately spot a bus with this logo, you know where this bus is going, or you know what system is that bus operating under. So, that is a BRTS system. So, you already can distinguish that service from other services, other bus services in your city, right. So, that is what a logo does, right. A logo creates a brand for that system. There are other ways of branding your system as well. You include the names with the logos that each one of them have done. You always maybe have a catchy slogan with the logo. You can have taglines. So, you can have different kinds of branding that can be done. Prominent logos, distinct logos or something with one punchline or with the name of the system is something that has been practiced for a long period of time. Again, even internationally, when you see, there are several logos that you can easily identify when you travel abroad. The London Underground subway logo, the New York City subway logo. So, all of these things have created a brand value in themselves. Now, when you say that you are going to use the underground tube in London, everybody knows what that is, what kind of service it provides. So, everybody has the information. So, all that information has already been marketed to the users, and now they can even spread the benefits. So, in this case, what happens is, once a user is attracted to your brand, they can spread the benefits of the brand just by word of mouth, right. I tell my friend, well, I took the London Metro, or I took the Namma Metro in Bangalore. That was wonderful experience. You can just get on there and get off, and then the other person also gets attracted to it, and that's how you can build your ridership or build your the brand value of your system, right. So, now if you look at marketing for revenues, absolutely there are different ways of doing that. People sell souvenirs of transit systems, right. You can sell small miniature metro rails with the logo on it at various shops. These are all generate extra revenue for your public transportation system. Remember, public transportation system, like we saw in the previous lecture, run on subsidy many of the times, right. The subsidies are provided by the government most likely, and so the government incurs extra cost for running these systems. So, all of these other avenues of generating revenue always helps out in reducing the amount of subsidy that is required, right. As you remember from the previous lecture, the fare box collection does not always cover for all the maintenance and operation costs. It certainly does not cover for the capital costs. So, many times these revenues, these additional revenues from marketing can always help reduce the subsidy, can always help balance the balance sheet, as you say, for all the public transportation systems. So, you can do so by selling souvenirs. We have already talked about advertisements on the buses and inside the buses, right. You can advertise also on the bus stops. If you go to any major cities in India, this is taking place now in more and more, where as that is a location where a lot of people gather. So, it is a prime location for putting advertisements at the bus stops as well, right. Printing advertisements on tickets, right. Now, although we are trying to go away from printed tickets, but still a lot of printed tickets are used, or maybe the smart cards that are used, those could be branded and also advertised, or different types of advertisements could be on the printed on the smart cards as well. So, that is another way of doing it, and also property development at transit stands and corridors, right. This phenomenon is known as transit oriented development, right. TOD. So, this is a brand new phenomenon. Even in India, it has been there for about 4 or 5 years, where the first policy TOD policy has come out. But you will see some of the metro stations already, what they do is they allow a greater FSI or an FAR around those stations, and allow high intensity development, mixed use high intensity development to happen. So, the land prices goes up, the activity around the metro stations intensifies, that allows people to stay close to the metro and use the metro also. So, that kind of marketing also helps generate extra revenues. Now, all the land around the station, usually some of the land around the station does belong to the transit authority, and by selling those land rights, some authorities also sell air rights, right. The air up on top of the metro rail station can also be sold for creating office spaces or garages, parking garages, and so on and so forth, that can generate extra revenue for your public transportation system. Here are some examples where you can see the buses in London. I believe those are. You can also have unique designs for your main office buildings, right. That can also be marketed, saying that this is the public transport agency office headquarters. That is a good way of saying that, hey, we are here for customer service. If you have any needs, you can come here, talk to us directly. So, that is a way of giving out good marketing, or promoting your brand value as well. This is an example of advertising at the bus stops that helps generate revenues. And also, when we talk about reaching out to all socioeconomic segments, there has to be, the public transit has to be marketed specifically for vulnerable users, specifically for people who otherwise do not have any options to travel. So, attract them to a very comfortable public transportation system. So, you can always have ladies special, for example, ladies special buses, which is run by the Jammu and Kashmir state government, State Road Transport Corporation, as shown here. You can also have special buses that cater to the socioeconomic group that can afford higher prices, right. You not only look at lower socioeconomic group people, but also look at high socioeconomic group people, because remember, we have to attract choice users as well. So, we give them a comfortable ride. We say that, hey, this will give you the services that you need, and so why not you ride with us, right. So, the recent steps that our central government has taken you may have come across them, where they are improving the quality of intercity rail transport, right. So, you are getting more comfortable trains, better food on the train. So, all of this helps improve the services, and then you can then market yourself. You can then market the Indian Rail, or you can then market the metro. So, that is the whole aim of help generating, the main aim of help generating more revenues from your improved marketing. Other socioeconomic targeted socioeconomic group may include people who go on to the airports, right. So, there may be shuttle buses from various points in your city that take people directly to the airport. So, you may want to distinguish them by a specific design, by logos, in order to attract people. Hey, once you see this, you will remember before the next trip to the airport that you take, that well, there was a bus that I could now easily hop on from close to my home and get to the airport, rather than looking for an expensive alternative of parking at the airport and going to a one-day trip, or so on and so forth. So, right. So, you can have specialized. So, these are all examples of how you can market for different socioeconomic groups. Then outreach strategies, like I said, you also have to have certain outreach strategies from time to time, right. You cannot do these outreach strategies all the time. You have to create, these are to create awareness about public transportation systems, right. Have a plan that every year, 4 times a year or 5 times a year, you will have certain events around focusing around your public transportation systems, right. For example, Kolkata trams have now taken up this strategy of giving you tours, heritage tours around Kolkata on board the tram system, which is very historic and has been there for a long time. So, in order to revive that tram system, Kolkata Road Transport Corporation, or the agency that manages it, has taken this marketing strategy of reviving a couple of tram coaches, developing a map of tourist map of where they will take them, and now they are being marketed to different people around different times, to say that, hey, now you can take this for a heritage tour around the city. So, these are kind of outreach programs that have to be developed, have to be marketed, make pamphlets of it, have kiosks that provide information, use print, television media in order to put the word out there about all these public transport systems that you have, right. We have already talked about how you can have celebrities, how you can have, I mean, celebrities need not be national or international celebrities. They could be local people who everybody looks up to, right. You can have your mayor of the city, or somebody very popular in your community take a ride on the bus transport system. A doctor who is very well known in the community takes a ride on the public transportation system. Gives you the benefits of health benefits of using public transportation systems, right, for example. So, that will help create an awareness, and it will promote more, it will give a higher promotion of your system, of your public transportation system. What can be marketed for, what can be public transport systems marketed for, right. What are you marketing them for? You can say that you can socialize while on a while you are taking a public transport trip. You can chit chat with people, know more about what is happening around, right, as people, because this is one of the negatives of increasing car use, is that people are getting more and more isolated in their lives. They are traveling by themselves, they are working by themselves. So, there is a less and less social interaction. So, public transportation can improve social interaction. You can reduce the risk of accidents that usually is associated with use of private vehicles. You can conduct a lot of in-travel work, right. When you are driving, you cannot do anything else, but while you are taking a metro or while you are taking a bus, you can do other things. You can productively use that time. It includes it promotes inclusiveness. All parts of the society can use this bus, and of course, it has monetary benefits which is having low fare. So, all of these things can be marketed, right. All of these things about the public transportation system can be marketed. All right. So, that gave you a broad overview of how transit marketing can be conducted. We looked at why is it needed, how can it help, how can you create a brand value, what outreach programs you can conduct, and what are the elements of public transportation system that can be marketed. Thank you very much for your attention.